Walnuts have a unique position among nuts because they're the only common nut providing substantial amounts of alpha-linolenic acid, a plant-based omega-3 fatty acid. This, combined with their antioxidant content and other nutrients, makes them particularly interesting for brain health discussions. There's actually more specific research on walnuts and cognition than on most nuts, though as always, we need to interpret findings carefully. The omega-3 content in walnuts, specifically ALA, can be partially converted to the long-chain omega-3s EPA and DHA that are more directly beneficial for brain structure and function. However, the conversion rate is quite low, typically less than 10% for EPA and under 5% for DHA in most people. This means walnuts aren't equivalent to fatty fish for omega-3 benefits, but they do provide some benefit, particularly for people who don't consume fish. Walnuts also contain substantial amounts of polyphenol and vitamin E, providing antioxidant protection. The proposed mechanism for brain benefits involves reducing oxidative stress and inflammation, supporting synaptic health, and potentially promoting neuroplasticity. Some animal studies have shown that walnut consumption can improve memory and learning, reduce markers of oxidative stress in brain tissue, and even reduce amyloid beta accumulation in Alzheimer's models. Human studies have been more limited, but show some promising signals. Observational research from the Nurses' Health Study found that women who ate nuts more frequently, including walnuts, had better average cognitive scores as they aged. Some intervention trials have shown modest cognitive improvements with regular walnut consumption, though effects are generally small and not consistent across all cognitive domains. The WAHA study specifically examined walnuts and cognitive aging in older adults, finding that daily walnut consumption for 2 years didn't significantly affect cognitive decline overall, but showed potential benefits in certain subgroups, particularly those at higher risk for cognitive decline. This suggests timing and baseline status might matter. Walnuts might help maintain cognition in people starting to decline, but not prevent initial decline or reverse established problems. Now for important limitations. First, walnuts are extremely calorie-dense at about 190 calories per ounce, which is roughly 14 walnut halves. The research showing benefits typically uses 1 to 2 ounces daily, adding 200 to 400 calories. Unless you're reducing caloric intake elsewhere, this could lead to weight gain, which would counteract any cognitive benefits through metabolic dysfunction and increased Alzheimer's risk. Second, the ALA in walnuts is quite fragile and oxidizes relatively quickly. Walnuts should be stored in cool, dark conditions, ideally refrigerated, and consumed relatively fresh. Rancid walnuts have an off taste and contain oxidized fats that may be inflammatory rather than beneficial. Third, tree nut allergies are common and can be severe. For allergic individuals, walnuts are obviously not an option. Some people also find walnuts have bitter or astringent tastes, particularly the thin skin on the nut, which contains most of the polyphenol, but also tannins that some find unpleasant. The environmental considerations for walnut production are mixed. Walnuts require substantial water, particularly in California, where most U.S. walnuts are grown, raising sustainability concerns. However, walnut trees are long-lived perennials that provide some environmental benefits, including carbon sequestration and habitat. Cost is also a factor. Walnuts are among the more expensive nuts, and organic or high-quality walnuts are even pricier. For budget-conscious consumers, walnuts might not be the most efficient way to obtain beneficial nutrients for brain health. Regarding Alzheimer's disease specifically, walnuts are not a treatment or cure. The evidence for prevention is suggestive but not definitive. The modest cognitive benefits seen in some research appear most relevant for maintaining function in aging rather than reversing established neurodegeneration. For practical recommendations, if you enjoy walnuts and they fit your budget, including about an ounce most days as part of a balanced diet is reasonable. They're versatile. You can eat them alone, add them to salads, oatmeal, yogurt, or baked goods. But portion control is essential to avoid excessive calories. Store them properly to prevent rancidity. And recognize them as one component of brain-healthy eating, not a silver bullet. Other nuts provide comparable benefits through different nutrient profiles, and if walnuts specifically don't appeal to you or aren't accessible, you're not missing out on irreplaceable brain protection. The overall pattern of eating whole foods, managing caloric intake, staying physically active, and engaging cognitively matters far more than whether you specifically eat walnuts versus other nuts or omega-3 sources.